The Duchess Without a Throne: How Isabel de Herédia Kept Portugal's Crown Jewels Alive. Portugal abolished its monarchy in 1910, and yet, more than a century later, a woman with no throne to sit on still steps out in diamonds that once crowned an actual queen. Isabel de Herédia, Duchess of Braganza, married into a royal house that technically does not exist anymore, and somehow kept its jewelry box not just intact, but working. While most deposed dynasties watched their treasures scattered, sold, or quietly vanish into private collections, the House of Braganza did something rarer. It held on. What Isabel wears today at state banquets and royal weddings across Europe is not costume jewelry standing in for a lost grandeur. It is the real thing, still in circulation, still being worn by the family it was made for. The House of Braganza ruled Portugal and Brazil for nearly 4 centuries before the 1910 revolution turned the country into a republic and sent the royal family into exile. The line that survives today, and that the Portuguese government still informally addresses by royal titles as a courtesy rather than an official recognition, descends from King Miguel I through his grandson Duarte Nuno, Duke of Braganza, head of what is known as the Miguelist branch of the family, the line that became the closest male line claimant to the defunct throne once the direct. Descendants of Queen Maria II died out in the male line in 1932. Duarte Nuno's eldest son, Duarte Pio, born in Bern, Switzerland, in May 1945, while his family was still legally barred from Portuguese soil under exile laws dating back to 1834, is the current head of the house and the man Portuguese monarchists regard as the rightful king. His parents were only permitted to bring him home in 1952, after those old exile statutes were finally repealed by the Portuguese government in 1950. The young Duarte Pio had already made a brief visit to the country the year before, accompanying an aunt. His godparents at baptism were Pope Pius C and Queen Amélie of Portugal. The last queen consort of the country and the mother of its final monarch, King Manuel II, a detail that turns out to matter enormously for the story of the jewels themselves, since it was this same Amelie who would later leave the Duke one of the family's most important tiaras. Duarte Pio's own path to the altar was unusually long by royal standards. He did not marry until 13 May 1995, at almost 50 years old, when he wed Isabel de Castro Carvalho de Herédia, a Lisbon-born businesswoman from an old Portuguese noble family at the Jerónimos Monastery in Belém. Isabel, born in November 1966 to an architect father, Jorge de Herédia, and a mother, Raquel Leonor Pinheiro de Castro Carvalho, descended from established Portuguese nobility. Held a business administration degree from the Getulio Vargas Foundation in Brazil, and had worked professionally as an assets manager before the wedding. The ceremony was, by any measure, historic in its own right. It was the first Portuguese royal wedding actually held on Portuguese soil since King Carlos I married the French-born Princess Amélie of Orleans in 1886, more than a century earlier. The celebrations stretched across several days, including a bullfight and a gala variety show and dinner at Queluz Palace on the eve of the religious ceremony, featuring performances by the Portuguese School of Equestrian Art and traditional Timorese dances, honoring the Duke's long involvement with the independence movement in East Timor. Guests at the wedding itself included the Grand Duke and Grand Duchess of Luxembourg, Prince Philippe of Belgium, the Countess of Paris, and members of the Bulgarian, Austrian, Italian, and Spanish royal and noble houses, alongside Portugal's own sitting president Mário Soares and Prime Minister Pombal Cavaco Silva, who treated the event as something close to an unofficial state occasion, despite the country's Republican constitution. Following the wedding, and especially after the birth of the couple's first child, Isabel gradually withdrew from professional life and turned her attention to her family and to charitable patronage, a role she has held for 3 decades since. What sets Isabel de Herédia apart from many spouses who marry into deposed or ceremonial royal houses is that she did not simply inherit a title with nothing behind it. She inherited an unusually well-preserved archive of jewelry that had, through careful family planning across several generations, largely escaped the fate that befell the collections of so many other fallen European dynasties' pieces, sold off piecemeal after revolutions, broken up by inheritance disputes, or quietly disappearing into the trade. The Braganza collection Isabel now holds and wears traces back through Queen Amélie, the last queen of Portugal, and through Duarte Pio's own mother, Princess Maria Francisca of Orleans Braganza, a Brazilian-born princess whose life bridged the Portuguese and Brazilian branches of the wider Braganza dynasty. Isabel is not simply a custodian of these objects, by her own choice and her husband's. She has continued to wear them at the same kind of grand royal occasions, state visits, weddings, jubilees for which they were originally designed, rather than treating them as untouchable museum pieces kept permanently in a vault. She and Duarte Pio have 3 children, all born in Lisbon after their marriage, Afonso, styled Prince of Beira and Duke of Barcelos. Born in March 1996 and the presumptive heir to the Braganza claim, Maria Francisca, styled Duchess of Coimbra, born in 1997, who married the Lisbon lawyer Duarte de Sousa Araujo Martins in October 2023 at the Basilica of Mafra, and Dinis, styled Duke of Porto, born in 1999, whose engagement to the Austrian noblewoman Countess Anna Schafgotsch von Unzu-Kynast und Greifenstein was announced in June 2026. Isabel's role as the family's principal jewelry wearer has, in recent years, begun to extend to a second generation, with her daughter Maria Francisca borrowing several signature pieces for her own wedding celebrations and for other royal events across Europe, passing down of both objects and occasions that closely mirrors how Isabel herself first received many of these jewels from her mother in long after marrying into the family. Beyond the jewelry, Isabel has built a public identity around patronage rather than politics, a sensible position for the wife of a man whose own role is symbolic rather than constitutional. She holds honorary positions within the House of Braganza's own honor system, including Grand Mistress of the Royal Order of St. Isabel, and has focused much of her charitable energy on causes within Portugal rather than international ceremonial appearances, reserving the latter largely for exactly the kind of major royal weddings and state anniversaries where her husband's family connections across Europe's remaining royal houses are most naturally on display. That balanced, quiet domestic patronage paired with occasional, carefully chosen European appearances in full historic jewels has arguably done more to keep the Braganza name visible internationally over the past 3 decades than any political argument for restoration ever could. The clearest illustration of everything this collection represents is the tiara Isabel wore on her own wedding day in May 1995, a diamond tiara created for Queen Amélie of Orleans on her marriage to the future King Carlos I of Portugal in 1886, and gifted to her by her father-in-law, King Louis I, who is said to have personally chosen the piece and its design for his son's bride. Commissioned from the official court goldsmith of the Portuguese crown and the Brazilian imperial house, the tiara is fashioned in silver-topped gold, its rows of fleur-de-lis motifs set with roughly 800 brilliant cut diamonds, the largest stones crowning its top, and reportedly valued, at the time of manufacture, at around $10,000, an extraordinary sum for the 1880s. And a piece Amélie herself is said to have grown so fond of that it became affectionately known within the family simply as the Dame Luce. Amélie wore it for her husband's proclamation as king, and, remarkably, kept it even after the monarchy's abolition in 1910 forced the family into exile in France, at a moment when many other royal families were losing their jewels to seizure or forced sale. Rather than let it pass out of the family's hands entirely, she eventually left it to her godson, Duarte Pio, the very man who would one day become Duke of Braganza in his own right. On 13 May 1995, more than 4 decades after Amélie's death in 1951, that same tiara reappeared in public, resting on Isabel de Herédia's elaborately styled hair as she walked down the aisle at Jernamos Monastery. paired with a set of solitaire diamond earrings given to her by her own mother. Since that wedding day, the tiara has become something close to the family's signature public image, appearing in the couple's most widely reproduced official portraits, taken by the photographer Antonio Homem Cardoso, and resurfacing at a string of major European royal gatherings over the following 3 decades, evidence that the piece was never intended to be a one-off bridal showpiece, but a genuinely working part of the family's ceremonial wardrobe, brought out for exactly the kind of state occasions for which it was designed nearly a century and a half ago. Objects like this matter for reasons well beyond royal spectacle. A tiara that survives a monarchy's abolition, an exile, several changes of ownership, and more than a century of European upheaval, only to reappear intact on a wedding day in the same country that abolished the throne it once represented, is a genuinely unusual historical artifact. It functions as a kind of physical continuity clause for a dynasty that has no constitutional standing left to rely on, where the British or Spanish royal families can point to unbroken state ceremony as proof of their institutional survival. The Braganzas, reduced to a private family with an honorary courtesy title, have had to rely on other kinds of evidence that their history still matters. Their jewels, worn again and again at the same category of grand occasion for which they were originally made, are effectively doing the work that a coronation or a state opening of parliament would do for a reigning house. There is also something genuinely rare about the sheer density of documented provenance in this particular collection. Many aristocratic and even royal jewelry collections lose their paper trail after a generation or two, especially when a family goes into exile, as the Braganzas did for decades. That Isabel's wedding tiara can be traced with real confidence back through a specific royal gift. A specific goldsmith and a specific act of testamentary bequest from Amelie to her godson is unusual, and it gives historians a rare, mostly complete case study in how a single object can carry an entire dynasty's self-image across 100+ years of dramatically changed political circumstances. The collection also says something about how modern European royalty, reigning or not, actually functions as a single interconnected social world rather than a set of separate national institutions. Isabel's jewels have appeared at Swedish royal birthdays, Dutch and Belgian state visits to Portugal, a Luxembourg wedding anniversary, a Monegasque royal wedding, and Bavarian and Russian noble weddings, often on the same trips where the Braganzas' own currently reigning European cousins were also present in their own family jewels. In that sense, the Braganza collection functions less as an isolated curiosity from a defunct monarchy and more as one working set among many within a continent-wide network of royal and formerly royal families who still, remarkably, gather for each other's weddings, anniversaries, and state occasions, and who still dress for them in exactly the way their 19th century ancestors would have. Recognized. Not every piece in the collection carries the same clean documentation, and the gaps are worth acknowledging honestly. The origins of the striking geometric diamond choker, sometimes called the kite diadem, for instance, remain genuinely disputed. It is generally attributed to Portuguese court jewelers of the period, though some sources speculate it may instead be the work of a major Parisian house of the same era. No single account is treated as definitive. Queen Amélie is believed to have first worn the piece around 1900, possibly acquired following her husband's proclamation as king the previous decade, but exactly how or from whom it was acquired is not conclusively documented. Its versatility, convertible between choker, necklace, and, with a later commissioned frame, full tiara, is well attested by decades of photographs, even where its precise commissioning history is not. A second, quieter tension runs through the whole collection, the scale gap between the Braganza jewels and those still held by reigning European royal houses. As royal commentators frequently note, the Braganza collection, while historically rich, is considerably smaller than those of the British, Spanish, or Scandinavian crowns. simply because a reigning monarchy accumulates state and crown jewels over centuries in a way an exiled or deposed house generally cannot. There was no state treasury funding new commissions for the Braganzas after 1910. Only whatever pieces individual family members had managed to keep, receive as gifts, or later purchase privately. That the family has nonetheless managed to preserve what they have, and to keep it in active rotation at genuinely top-tier royal occasions across Europe is precisely what makes the collection noteworthy, not its size, but its survival and its continued visible use. Decades after the political circumstances that might easily have scattered it entirely, there is finally a more delicate tension inherent in the family's whole position that the jewels only make more visible. Duarte Pio is regularly received with royal courtesy by European royal houses and even on occasion by the Portuguese state itself. Yet Portugal's government has been explicit that referring to him as Duke of Braganza carries no formal constitutional recognition and implies no restoration of monarchy. Wearing jewels once worn by an actual reigning queen at banquets held in palaces that once belonged to the crown and are now state property administered by the Portuguese Republic sits at an odd intersection of nostalgia, diplomacy, and quiet political ambiguity one the family appears to navigate simply by not commenting on it directly, letting the jewels themselves do whatever symbolic work the occasion calls for. Beyond the wedding tiara, several other pieces trace equally layered histories. The geometric diamond choker mentioned above, sometimes worn as a necklace and sometimes as a tiara, features a striking pattern resembling an X-shaped picket fence, its knife-edged diamond bars forming interlocking lozenge shapes across silver and gold, an unusually architectural design for its period, and one that photographs distinctively at a distance, which likely explains why it has remained such a recognizable part of the family's rotation, despite the uncertainty over exactly who made it. It vanished from public view for decades after Amelie's era before reappearing in 1995, when Isabel wore it with a dramatic black gown, a striking counterpoint to the more traditional bridal jewels she had worn earlier that same week. In 2006, for celebrations marking the 60th birthday of King Carl Svig Gustaf of Sweden, Isabel had a supplementary frame commissioned specifically so the choker could also be worn as a tiara, pairing it that evening with a diamond necklace that had belonged to her mother-in-law, Princess Maria Francisca, itself modified over time by the removal of its original pendant. In 2017, Isabel combined the choker tiara with the original Amelie wedding tiara at a state banquet held at the Ajuda National Palace in Lisbon in honor of King Willem-Alexander and Queen Maxima of the Netherlands during their state visit to Portugal, a rare instance of two of the family's most historic pieces being worn together, tiara and choker tiara, side by side, within the same public appearance. A separate and equally storied piece is the aquamarine suite Isabel received as a wedding gift in 1995, originally belonging to her mother-in-law, Princess Maria Francisca of Orleans Braganza. That set had itself been a gift decades earlier, funded by a subscription organized among prominent society women in Rio de Janeiro, who wanted to present the princess with a jewel reflecting both her Brazilian heritage and her noble rank as a member of the wider Braganza family living in Brazil. It was crafted by the British firm Mappin & Webb, which then operated workshops in Rio de Janeiro, serving the city's wealthy elite, and consists of a demi-parure necklace and matching earrings set with 19 large, high-quality emerald-cut Brazilian aquamarines, alongside numerous brilliant and baguette-cut diamonds, all mounted in platinum in an elegant, restrained design typical of the firm's work in that period. The design bears a notable resemblance to another Mappin & Webb aquamarine set with genuine international fame. The necklace and earrings presented to Queen Elizabeth II by Brazilian President Getulio Vargas in 1953 to mark her coronation, a piece still held by the British Crown today and instantly recognizable from decades of royal photographs. After Princess Maria Francisca's death, the Braganza aquamarine suite went unseen for nearly 3 decades before Isabel wore it again in 2008, pairing it with the family's diamond floral tiara at a return banquet hosted by King Carlos V. Gustaf and Queen Sylvia of Sweden during a state visit to Portugal, a combination widely noted at the time as one of the Duchess's most elegant and historically resonant appearances, precisely because it reunited 2 pieces both tied to the same beloved late princess. A Colombian emerald and diamond brooch offers another layered story. It originally belonged to Princess Maria Francisca and was a wedding gift from her family when she married in Petropolis, Brazil in October 1942. Designed in an antique scroll-style set with old mine and rose-cut diamonds, the brooch centers on a cushion shaped Colombian emerald, flanked by 2 smaller step-cut emeralds, with roughly 23 carats of surrounding diamonds, enhancing the stone's brilliance. The whole piece mounted in silver-topped gold, a traditional setting technique of the period chosen specifically to make color. Stones appear more luminous against candlelight and gaslight. 2 pear-shaped drops were originally designed to hang from it, visible in an early portrait of the princess wearing the piece in its complete form, though the brooch has also frequently been worn without them for a somewhat more understated look. Isabel revived the piece, minus its drops. For the 2023 wedding celebrations of Prince Ludwig of Bavaria and Sophie Alexandra Eveking in Munich, part of a weekend that included a religious ceremony at Munich's Theatine Church, a reception at Nymphenburg Palace, and a wedding ball at Schloss Schleiheim, attended by royal and noble guests from across Europe. Later that same year, her daughter Maria Francisca wore the same brooch in an entirely different style worked into her hairstyle rather than pinned to her gown at the dinner following her own wedding to Duarte de Sousa Araujo Martins at her parents' home in Sintra. A small but telling sign of how flexibly this particular jewel has been reinterpreted by 2 generations of Braganza women. A diamond bandeau tiara featuring 7 floral clusters interspersed with 6 twisted diamond bands on a flexible frame reminiscent of late 19th century design, carries perhaps the longest continuous line of royal brides in the collection. It was worn as a choker by Princess Maria Theresa of Linstein-Wertheim-Rosenberg, who married into the Braganza family in 1893 at a stepson's wedding, and later by Princess Maria Francisca herself at her 1942 wedding in Brazil, where she used it to secure her lace veil rather than as a conventional headpiece. It eventually came to Isabel, who is understood to regard it as her personal favorite among the family's tiaras, perhaps unsurprisingly, given its flexible construction allows it to be worn either open, as a fuller tiara, or closed more tightly, as a slimmer band, adapting easily to different hairstyles and dress necklines across several decades of changing fashion. She wore it at the 2011 wedding in Monaco of Prince Albert II and Charlene Wittstock, paired with matching diamond earrings and a brooch, and again at the 2021 wedding of Grand Duke George Mikhailovich of Russia and Victoria Romanovna. Of the 4 tiaras available to her, this bandeau appears to be Isabel's most frequent choice, including for a 2022 state banquet at the Ajuda Palace honoring Grand Duke Henri and Grand Duchess Maria Theresa of Luxembourg. Finally, a diamond floral necklace tiara its clusters, echoing the naturalistic jewelry style popular in the late 19th century. And convertible between necklace and tiara form depending on the occasion and the wearer's preference, is believed to have belonged to Princess Maria Francisca, who wore it at the 1962 wedding gala of the then Prince Juan Carlos of Spain and Princess Sofia of Greece, decades before either would ascend to the Spanish throne. Isabel favors it for major international gatherings, as a necklace at a private 2006 dinner marking King Carl SV Gustaf's 60th birthday, at a 2016 event marking the silver wedding anniversary of the Luxembourg Grand Ducal couple, at a banquet honoring King Felipe and Queen Letizia of Spain's first state visit to Portugal, and at a 2018 banquet for King Philippe and Queen Mathilde of Belgium's own state visit. In 2023, Maria Francisca borrowed her mother's floral tiara and matching earrings for Prince Ludwig of Bavaria's wedding ball at Schloss Schleiheim, marking the first time the younger Duchess of Coimbra had worn a tiara in public. A small, quietly significant milestone in a family where a first tiara appearance functions almost as an informal rite of passage. A separate Moroccan diamond suite, a wedding gift from the Moroccan royal family in 1995, consisting of a necklace and earrings in an open-work floral design set with 367 diamonds totaling nearly 4 carats, has remained one of Isabel's most frequently worn pieces precisely because of its comparative lightness and versatility. Appearing at the 1997 wedding of Archduke Georg of Austria and Duchess Ela of Oldenburg, the 2004 wedding of the then Prince of Asturias and Letizia Ortiz, and a state banquet for the Grand Ducal couple of Luxembourg at the as Isabel de Herédia approaches 60 in November 2026. And as her own children begin marrying and starting families of their own, the Braganza jewelry collection is visibly entering its next phase of transmission. Her daughter Maria Francisca has already borrowed both the emerald and diamond brooch and the floral necklace tiara for major royal occasions, suggesting that the family intends to keep circulating these pieces actively among its women rather than reserving them solely for the reigning duchess. Her son Afonso, as the presumptive heir, will one day become Duke of Braganza himself, and any future wife he takes will likely inherit the same expectation Isabel accepted in 1995, to wear these jewels not as static heirlooms locked away for safekeeping, but as working pieces at exactly the kind of grand European gatherings, weddings, jubilees, state visits where the family has quietly kept its presence felt for 3 decades. The upcoming marriage of Isabel's youngest son, Denis, to Countess Anna Schafgotsch, announced in mid-2026, offers the collection's next obvious occasion for a fresh appearance, possibly of a tiara that has not been seen in public for some years, following the family's now well-established habit of bringing out different combinations of stones for each new milestone. It would also mark the first time in the collection's recent history that a bride marrying directly into the male line of the family, rather than a daughter borrowing pieces for an outside wedding, might be given the opportunity to wear one of these jewels in her own right, a moment likely to be watched closely by royal historians precisely because it would signal which pieces the family considers appropriate to pass to an incoming daughter-in-law rather than keep with its own bloodline. There is a broader question, too, about what happens to a collection like this over the coming decades, as fewer people alive can personally verify which stories about a given piece are accurate and which have simply been repeated so often they have hardened into assumed fact. Unlike the state-owned crown jewels of a reigning monarchy, which are catalogued, insured, and typically kept under formal institutional custodianship, a collection like the Braganzas remains, legally speaking, private family property, passed on through ordinary inheritance rather than constitutional arrangement. That gives the family considerable freedom over how the jewels are worn, lent, or eventually divided among descendants, but it also means there is no external institution obliged to preserve the accompanying documentation the way a national archive or crown jeweler's office would. Whatever happens next, the pattern set over the last 3 decades makes clear that this is a family whose relationship to its own royal past is neither pure nostalgia nor pure performance, but something closer to a working inheritance, jewels bought, gifted, inherited, occasionally reset, and worn again, generation after generation, by a family with no throne left to justify any of it except its own persistence. A republic can abolish a crown, but it cannot make a family stop being who it was. The Braganzas simply decided that if they could not keep the throne, they would at least keep the diamonds and wear them exactly as often as a reigning house would have. Given that Isabel de Herédia has no formal crown to inherit, only a private collection kept alive through careful choice and family loyalty, which of these Braganza jewels do you think best captures a royal house that refused to simply disappear?